Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Everybody's working for the weekend. Taking care of business every day. Now it's wow, 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 wow. Welcome to the working week.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
Minimum wage.
So we've got a lot going on lately. A lot in the news. Obviously, our heart's heavy with the recent events out in Boston.
Absolutely.
You know, just something you would never think to see. Certainly nothing I ever thought I would see in my lifetime. Someone attacking Boston Marathon, and certainly all the innocent people that are there. So our thoughts and prayers do go out to all the folks recovering and the families affected by the tragedy and the loss there. So good to see it resolved with the investigation and finding that. So, but moving on, we're also dealing locally with a lot going on in the budget world.
Budget cuts, yeah.
As you know, a lot of the programs that are out there. So we're part of the public workforce system. Work with the Central Mass Workforce Investment Board, which oversees for Southern Worcester County, 38 communities in Southern Worcester County, the public workforce system, and connecting job seekers and employers with each other through mainly through our career centers in Worcester, Milford, and Southbridge, but also through a variety of other projects and programs, including youth programming and summer jobs and other projects that are out there. So obviously, we do keep a fairly close eye to, our bottom line, which is the public dollars coming in through the system. And on the federal level, we're dealing with the sequester.
Yep. That's
kicking in and will be majorly affecting operations at the Career Center, especially July through September. That's the first quarter of our fiscal year, which relates to the last quarter of the federal fiscal year. So the sequester cuts are coming locally, will really be impacting operations at the career centers and at our office as well on that first quarter.
And that first quarter is when a lot of the training dollars are allocated to customers?
Correct. Well, a lot of people that are entering training do so kind of in lockstep with the start of the semester in the fall, and so that's going to be negatively impacted by the sequester cuts, as well as there's for folks collecting unemployment benefits that have been out of work or collecting for more than 26 weeks. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a reduction in those benefits. So an across-the-board cut will be impacting those collecting unemployment. So going into effect here, the week ending May 4th will be a 12.8% cut for anyone collecting unemployment benefits beyond the initial 26 weeks. And the reason for that breakdown is that the first 26 weeks are funded through the state system, mm-hmm. and then the remaining ones are federal. And it's those federal portion that's being affected by the sequester.
Now, is that considered long-term unemployed, or is that just the regular?
That is, but it's part of the definition of long-term unemployed would be someone that's unemployed more than 26 weeks traditionally. Mm-hmm. But that's also just happens to be part of the breakdown between the federal and state funding line there. So certainly that's something. We're also locally, as you know, dealing with our state budget. We do get a bit through that for serving job seekers through the Career Center and help setting up that infrastructure to serve those as well as employers. And then also our summer jobs program and our School to Career Connect Activities program, mm-hmm. which is a school year-based program helping to connect young people with internships and part-time jobs. And for the small investment that we get locally, about under $100,000, we're able to help broker over $1 million in paid internships and part-time jobs for young people, mainly high school students, high school juniors and seniors, and some sophomores as well.
And here locally, that's with Worcester Public Schools and in the Blackstone Valley area.
Yeah, there's about 12 12 school districts that we work with as part of that program. And we also have affiliations with many of the other schools in the district when it comes to that project. The Summer Jobs Program last year able to serve over 400 youth and give them a work experience during summer, keep them active, keep them learning through the summer.
And developing those skills.
And getting a few dollars in their pocket as well, which
it.
as you know, goes back into the economy by and large.
Yep.
You know, they're out there using that money for purchases, so it goes back into the economy very quickly. And so that's a state budget item that's also being cut. So you've got, you know, those three main ones. The Career Center line item that's seeing a reduction. They actually had been proposing increasing it because to help offset some of the federal cuts that we're going to be taking, as well as looking at you know, a little bit more equitable share statewide. A large portion of that fund does go towards the Boston area. It's just kind of a quirk in the distribution of those funds. So looking to help make it more equitable by kind of increasing some of the funds that go outside of the Boston area. So
those three are kind of the priority areas of the board, and what the board's been really backing and following and trying to. Okay.
Yeah, correct. You know, so those three areas: the One-Stop Career Center lineup and the Youth Works, Youth Works, and then Connect Activities. And I should say that they have received tremendous support from our local elected officials.
Yep.
So that's great. Last month we had Frank Kartheiser from Worcester Interfaith, who does a great job of really getting the word out through their network about what the issues are, including those programs. So we thank them for their support. So, you know, a lot going on these days with that.
I also just wanted to mention real quick, going back to the Connecting Activities line item, I attended an event with Bob. We went to the State House, and they had some of the representatives who were sponsoring that bill for Connecting Activities, and they had some of the youth who went through the program, and it was just very powerful to hear them speak about their experience and what they got from it. And
well, and the data shows that participants in an internship, part-time job, the participants in Connect Activities actually have a higher rate of staying in school, staying with it, graduating, and then, as we know, young people that have a job and work experience while they're young have a higher rate of employment as they enter their adulthood. So those positive effects continue into adulthood. So, you know, for our local economy, it is a big deal if we're not having young people gaining those work experience. Speaking of unemployment benefits, we also do have an interview that you had done.
Yeah, I had a chance to go attend there's a group that meets, they meet once a week on Tuesdays, and you'll hear more about that with the interview. I met with Christopher Horton, who's the volunteer organizer at the Worcester Unemployment Action Group. So they're doing a lot of exciting things around policy for the unemployed and developing jobs.
So it's really kind of the grassroots. It sounds like it's almost a combination. And I've attended a meeting or two myself to help talk about the public system. So it's almost like a bit of a support group as well as an grassroots advocacy group. And really trying to help change the message that's out there about the need. So why don't we roll that interview if we could?
Let's roll it. Hi, I'm here with Christopher Horton, the volunteer organizer for the Worcester Unemployment Action Group. Chris, how you doing today?
Very good, thank you, and
Thanks for joining us.
thanks for having me.
So the Worcester Unemployment Action Group, can you tell us a little bit about that? How long it's been in existence? What you guys have formed it for?
Well, we're an all-volunteer group. We've been meeting just a little over a year. We've been meeting at least once a week and calling various forums and actions, and we're mostly made up of unemployed people of all ages and education groups, and men, women, young, old, black, white, English-speaking, Spanish-speaking.
Everybody's invited.
Everybody's invited.
Great.
And we're trying to change public policy, change the public conversation, and change the laws around job creation and support for the unemployed. And we're also pushing for a more truthful and realistic discussion of the problem, because it's a much bigger problem than you would guess from the official statistics.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that? I know we've talked about it on our show, how the U3 data, which is the unemployment data used by most of the media and generally accepted as the unemployment data, it doesn't take into account certain groups, some of the long-term unemployed, some of the discouraged workers. I know there's some other groups maybe you can point out.
The U3 rate is not actually an unemployment statistic at all. It's a measure of a very limited, carefully defined group of people that are recognized by the Bureau of Labor Statistics as job seekers. And it leaves out so many categories. If you've never held a job, kid just graduating from school is not counted as unemployed until they've held a job. If you're taking even one course, and lots of people, when they lose a job, they go and sign up for a course to work on their skills while they're looking. They're not counted as unemployed then. If you're working part-time, you're not counted as unemployed. Even if you're not getting paid for it. Somebody doing an hour's work on the family farm is not counted as unemployed.
Right.
And then there are the long-term, then there are discouraged job seekers. The government's U6 rate includes people that have looked for work in the last year, but there's a large and growing number of people who've just given up. It costs too much money and is too discouraged, but if they had hope for finding a job, they'd be back.
Right.
And right now, the government isn't even asking the question. We can only guess how large that group is, but it's quite large.
So there's a number of groups that aren't included in the U3 unemployment rate. So just to give folks at home an idea of the difference between these, can you give us an idea of what the difference is between U3 unemployment rate and then a perceived unemployment rate based with all of these other groups included?
In Massachusetts right now, the official U3 rate just dropped to 6.5%, I believe it is. It dropped a tenth of a point. The U6 rate is up around 13%. And if you include long-term discouraged workers, that category has been moving upward, and nationally it's at a little bit under 23%.
So it's a substantial difference.
But that's really a guess. That's based on looking at how many people have dropped out of the labor force and attempting to reconstruct what it would be. But it's a huge difference. And if you take that 23% figure seriously, and we do, we're talking about depression-level unemployment rate.
Mm-hmm. And so the other side of this, the policy change that the Worcester Unemployment Action Group is working on is job development.
Yes, and what we're seeing is that efforts to induce or bribe corporations to create jobs are not working at the federal level. They're not working for states or for cities. What has to happen is direct federal and state job creation. We have simply got to go after the money where it is and put it to work, putting people to work, doing all of the different things that need doing. Mm-hmm. We're in a country which is living on the borrowed infrastructure work of previous generations, and the amount of delayed and unmet needs just to bring our infrastructure back to a healthy condition. It would put tens of millions of people back to work. And the money's out there. Mm-hmm. The corporations are sitting on huge piles of cash. The wealthy have trillions of dollars sitting in offshore bank accounts. the amount of money that would, well, we're supporting a bill now, the Humphrey Hawkins 21st Century Full Employment Act. One of its most active co-sponsors is our own Congressman Jim McGovern, and that would raise $2.4 trillion over the next 6 years, with a small tax on each stock, bond, or derivatives transaction,
Right.
and would put millions of adults back to work on public projects, and millions of young people to work on job training programs. And finding money would not be hard if we had the power.
So it's the support. The group needs more support, needs other people to get involved.
Yes, and that's why the unemployed need to get involved. There are millions of us,
Right.
40, 50 million of us. And if we start to get involved in large numbers, demanding change and demanding relief and demanding jobs and recognition for our real situation, the
The ask
government
be
will
heard.
have to
Yeah.
respond.
Yep.
But if we remain silent, quiet, waiting for somebody to do something,
Right.
we're not part of the conversation right now, and that's what has to change.
So you got to be the squeaky wheel.
We've got to make one heck of a squeak.
So, getting back to that, if people are listening at home and they think this is a great thing and they want to get involved, I know you said you guys meet weekly, so you guys meet on Tuesday afternoons?
Yes.
And where do you meet?
We meet Tuesday afternoons 1:30 at St. John's Church in Worcester on Temple Street. And
And they're open meetings, everybody's involved, unemployed, employed, anybody who's just
anyone who's
looking to help.
concerned about this issue and is interested in possibly doing something is welcome. And also people that are struggling with the system, trying to get unemployment assistance. We're not professionals, but we'll give you the benefit of our experience and hook you up with people that can help.
Great. And so your phone number, if people want to contact you, your email.
You can call 508-614-WUAG. That's 614-9824. Or email at worcesterunemployed@gmail.com. All one word, worcesterunemployed@gmail.com.
Great. Chris, I thank you for taking some time to talk with us. Is there anything else you wanted to voice over to our listeners? Any words of advice?
Well, just don't blame yourselves for the situation you're in if you're unemployed. Don't hang on to your shame. A lot of people feel like they caused their own problem, but this is much bigger than any one person, and it's not your fault that the economy collapsed. It's not your fault that it isn't recovering, and you need to get together with other people that are in the same boat and start working together to change this situation. It's tremendously good for depression.
Great. Thank you, Christopher. So again, we just talked to Christopher Horton, the volunteer organizer at Worcester Unemployment Action Group. Thanks again, Christopher.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Sean. That was interesting. Chris, God bless him and the work that those folks are doing. Trying to organize a grassroots effort is not easy.
No.
I know he put a lot of time and effort into it. So
Yeah, and check out a meeting if you have a chance. It's
yeah. So it's every week.
Yeah,
they do
weekly.
it over
They do it
at
weekly, yep.
St. John's Church. I think it's in
Temple
the
Street,
basement there on Temple
44th
Street.
Temple Street. Yep.
Sure. So, and certainly the issues that they raise about unemployment and the and what's happening there are important.
actually-
Not everyone would agree necessarily with their view on what needs to happen, but certainly a lot to chew on there. And unfortunately, I don't think the issues that they're raising or attempting to raise just get enough discussion or enough debate. Even if you don't agree with them, I think we ought to have a more healthy and lengthy discussion of these issues than just kind of brushing past them. In some ways they're a hidden constituency. The unemployed right now. So thank you for taking the time to do that as well. And so one of the issues that they're working with is the fact that you've got more and more long-term unemployed. So
Yeah.
people that are employed more than 26, unemployed more than 26 weeks. And there a great report and a great story in the Atlantic magazine. I'd